Was moving too slowly, but the fall of Ramadi has galvanized the Iraqi government. So with the additional steps I ordered last month, we're speeding up training of ISIL forces, including volunteers from Sunni tribes in Anbar province. So with the additional steps I ordered last month, we're speeding up training of ISIL forces, including volunteers from Sunni tribes in Anbar province.
The United States has just started bombing a new country, and no one even noticed. Why? Because our media hardly bothered to tell them. Just recently, President Obama, the president who ran on a platform of ending wars, remember that? Just began airstrikes in Libya to combat ISIS, making it the fourth country we are now actively bombing the crap out of in our undeclared war on terror. We have already dropped at least 50,000 bombs in Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan. And now we're bringing those bombs to Africa, in Libya. This should be big news, especially considering how most Americans are incredibly sick of their country sinking all of our money into wars and killing everyone everywhere. But not only was it not big news, it was barely reported at all, as reported by The Nation. The New York Times put their story on a far bottom corner of their second page, right next to the story about New York City's local G train. ABC World News Tonight mentioned the Libyan airstrikes for only 20 seconds, and that was 13 minutes into their show. Don't you think our bombing a new country is kind of big news, worth more than 20 seconds? This amounts to us going to war with another country, and all ABC World News gave it was 20 seconds? I guess I shouldn't bash them, though, because NBC Nightly News didn't even mention the airstrikes at all the night Obama announced them. And according to The Nation, Slate, Mother Jones, and BuzzFeed News all ran more stories about Trump being annoyed with a crying baby than they did about Obama starting up war in a new country. The Nation has a theory about this lousy news coverage. They say it's by design. They call it Obama's frog in boiling water approach, which means ramping up our wars so slowly and quietly that we don't even notice. They say Obama intentionally doesn't make big deals out of big events, like Bush did with his Mission Accomplished banner. They say this leads to the media reporting more war as inevitable and obvious instead of outrageous.
Look at other news now, and the US has admitted to killing dozens of civilians in drone operations in several countries. The Obama administration has released data with such a significant death toll, but the numbers are not what some journalists were expecting, as Caleb Moppin explains.
The report from the White House indicates that between 64 and 116 non-combatant civilians have died as a result of U.S. drone strikes. Now, it was made clear by the White House that this report does not include people who died in Afghanistan, Iraq, or Syria. The reason that these three countries were excluded is because these are considered to be active war zones. And according to the White House, the number of civilian deaths in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria are classified.
An American drone killed my son. Why? Tell me.
The Americans should be able to tell an ordinary person from a Taliban leader. They should know who they're killing. What did we do to deserve this?
I have no idea why my grandmother was killed.
I asked Obama to bring my dad back to life.
There was a boy studying in this university in Namal, and suddenly he finds that in his family compound in Waziristan there was a bomb and his family was killed. And then 6 months later we find that he had blown himself up in Ghazni in Afghanistan on a NATO convoy.
The people that are giving the order to kill, they don't care. They don't care who gets killed as long as their target gets attacked, as long as their target gets killed. They'll take out however many people that they can in order to get their results.
This is a targeted, focused effort at people who are on a list. Drones have not caused a huge number of civilian casualties. It is not something that's being...
The number of dead from US drone strikes in Afghanistan is classified information and hasn't been released, but last year a whistleblower website did shed some light on the programme. The leaked report revealed that almost 90% of drone strikes there resulted in civilian casualties.
Obama is running an assassination program where in a 2-week span in Yemen, he killed 3 U.S. citizens, none of whom have been indicted or charged with any crime. And Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki, a 16-year-old U.S. citizen, whose only crime appears to have been that his last name was al-Awlaki, was murdered in a U.S. strike. And there has been no explanation as to why a 16-year-old U.S. citizen was killed. There is no indication that any suspected militants were killed.
In fact, I can say that the types of operations that the U.S. has been involved in the counterterrorism realm, that nearly for the past year there hasn't been a single collateral death because of the exceptional proficiency, precision of the capabilities that we've been able to develop.
You go to the village of Al-Majla in Yemen, where I was, and you see the unexploded cluster bombs, and you have the list and photographic evidence, as I do, of the women and children that represented the vast majority of the deaths in this first strike that Obama authorized on Yemen. Those people were murdered by President Obama on his orders because there was believed to be someone from al-Qaeda in that area. And 21 women and 14 children were killed in that strike. And the U.S. tried to cover it up and say it was a Yemeni strike. And we know from the WikiLeaks cables that David Petraeus conspired with the president of Yemen to lie to the world about who did that bombing. It's murder it's mass murder when you say we are going to bomb this area because we believe a terrorist is there and you know that women and children are in the area. The United States has an obligation to not bomb that area if they believe that women and children are there. I'm sorry, that's murder.
Drones today, war crimes again. Poverty is trying to organize poor people. Not a mumbling word about poverty. We have the highest levels of poverty since 1960 in this regard.
But are you saying Obama is actually responsible for war crimes? Is that how you see it?
I think that they commit war crimes when they meet on Tuesday and have a killer list. And if they did it once or twice and said, my God, we got collateral damage, yes, but we've got over 4,000 innocent civilians dead and over 219 innocent children dead. They strike me as war crimes. I'm old school in this. I said the same thing about George Bush, same thing about Barack Obama.
But they are needed to support Iraqi and Kurdish forces with training, intelligence, and equipment. Across the border in Syria, we have ramped up our military assistance to the Syrian opposition. Tonight, I call on Congress again to give us additional authorities and resources to train and equip these fighters, sending arms and assistance to Iraqi security forces and the Syrian opposition, sharing intelligence and providing billions of dollars in humanitarian aid. So with the additional steps I ordered last month, we're speeding up training of ISIL forces, including volunteers from Sunni tribes in Anbar province.